Let's get right into it and understand the incredible thrill of aviation. Almost everyone loves to travel by plane. And if you've flown recently, you've probably passed through some beautifully designed, massive airports. But today, we're taking a drastically different flight path. We are going to look at some of the absolute most heart-stopping engineering and natural hurdles in global aviation. We're talking about runways so notoriously difficult, so extreme, that they literally make seasoned veteran pilots break a sweat. These are spots where a novice pilot wouldn't even dream of taking the controls. So buckle up because we are going on a wild global tour of the world's most extreme runways.
Okay, let's dive into this. Be honest with me. Have you ever gripped your armrests, maybe held your breath, or felt that sudden spike of fear during a bumpy plane landing? For most of us flying into huge commercial hubs, a bumpy landing is just a minor annoyance. But I want you to imagine the stakes for the elite pilots we're focusing on today. For them, every single approach is a life-or-death battle against unforgiving natural forces. A slight miscalculation doesn't just mean a rough touchdown. It means a genuine fight for survival.
So here is our flight path for today's explainer. First, the ultimate aviation test. Second, perilous mountain peaks. Then, at the water's edge, followed by bizarre and extreme runways. And finally, we'll ask, dare to fly here?
All right, kicking things off with Section 2. Perilous mountain peaks, navigating high-altitude hazards.
Now this brilliantly illustrates just how crazy things get up in these mountains. The air is dangerously thin and your margin for error, literally zero. Notice the dramatic difference in stopping distances here. A standard commercial runway gives a pilot thousands of meters of comfortable room to brake. But look at Sabah Airport in the Netherlands, a mere 400 meters long. Lukla in Nepal is just 527 meters, and Paro in Bhutan sits at 2,265 meters. Let's actually talk about Sabah for a second. It's built on the sheer mountain rock, flanked by the sea on 3 sides and a mountain peak on the 4th. Because it's so incredibly short, only very specific, tiny aircraft that can brake on a dime are permitted to land. If they don't hit the brakes perfectly, the runway just drops right off a cliff into the sea. I mean, it looks gorgeous, but it is deeply treacherous.
Let's bounce over to Nepal, to the Tenzing Hillary Airport, which most people just call Lukla Airport, the legendary gateway to the Himalayas. This tiny 527-meter strip is surrounded by a jaw-dropping 600-meter-deep gorge. Just put yourself in the pilot's seat for a moment. What if your approach is just a fraction of an inch off? Any slight misjudgment here instantly triggers a disaster. And to make matters even worse, it's not just the terrifying geography. The weather in the Himalayas is wildly unpredictable, which dramatically spikes the risk of a catastrophic accident on any given day.
Next up, we cross over into Bhutan to check out Paro International Airport. This is Bhutan's only international airport, and it is completely boxed in by mountain peaks towering over 5,500 meters high. The runway is just 2,265 meters long, and the procedural tension to land here is just staggering. Step 1, there is absolutely no radar assistance. Step 2, because of that, pilots have to execute a completely manual approach, which means they need perfect visual conditions. Step 3, and this is the craziest part, during the descent, pilots literally have to weave and twist a massive commercial jet around jagged 18,000-foot rocky cliffs just to line up with the runway. This intense obstacle course is exactly why only a tiny, exclusive handful of pilots in the entire world are legally authorized to fly here.
Okay, let this massive number sink in for a second. 10,622 feet. That is the staggering elevation of Leh Airport in India, which officially makes it the 23rd highest airport on the planet.
So the crucial point here is how this extreme elevation and rugged geography totally dictate the rules of the game at Leh Airport. It's surrounded by mountains with a really short runway. First off, because these fierce, high-speed winds rip through the valleys every afternoon, flights are strictly limited to the mornings. That's it. Second, the incredibly thin air and short tarmac mean heavy aircraft are entirely banned. You just can't stop them in time. And third, any pilot assigned to this route has to undergo mandatory, highly specialized training before they are even allowed to sit in the cockpit for Leh approach.
Moving right along to Section 3, at the water's edge, battling tides and ice.
Shifting our focus away from solid, towering rocks to the totally unpredictable nature of the ocean, prepare to have your mind blown by Barra Airport, located on the island of Barra in Scotland. It is officially recognized as the world's only beach runway. Yeah, you heard that correctly. Aircraft literally touch down right on the sandy beach.
But here's the catch. Because it sits right on the coastline, whenever the high tide rolls in, the ocean completely swallows the airport. That means flight schedules aren't dictated by a clock. They are physically dictated by the moon and ocean tides. On top of that, they have to carefully dodge sudden ocean storms, meaning operations are usually restricted to just a few hours, Monday to Friday. It's completely wild.
Now let's swap the chilly Scottish shores for the stunning tropical Maldives. Malé International Airport looks like an absolute postcard paradise, but it is an immense headache for pilots. This airport was built right out in the middle of the ocean, sitting a mere 2 meters above sea level. It also has the weird distinction of being constructed entirely out of coal tar. But let's look at the terrifying what-if scenario here. The runway is a razor-thin strip surrounded by the deep blue Indian Ocean. A single, momentary lapse in concentration, one slight drift by the pilot, and that huge airplane plunges straight into the sea. Oh, and a fun fact, once you survive the thrilling landing, passengers are shuttled to their final resorts via speedboat.
From tropical heat to bone-chilling frost. -50 degrees Celsius. Wow. Just looking at that number kind of makes you shiver, doesn't it? This is the brutal, entirely unforgiving temperature at the ice runway in Antarctica. The dangers at the ice runway are like nothing else on Earth. There is absolutely zero paved asphalt or concrete here. Nothing. Pilots are bringing down massive, incredibly heavy transport aircraft directly onto solid, frozen ice. Imagine looking out from the cockpit and all you see is an endless white sheet. The anxiety must be off the charts. Before any plane is allowed to descend, ground crews have to perform constant, obsessive checks. What are they looking for? Deadly ice cracks or any subtle signs of melting. Because even the tiniest bit of melting or a hidden fracture could cause the ice to completely shatter under the plane's weight, leading to an absolute catastrophe.
Let's move along and see how this builds into Section 4, Bizarre and Extreme Runways, Human Engineering Pushed to the Limit.
Up until now, we've mostly looked at nature's obstacles, but now we're looking at human engineering pushed to sheer absurdity. On one side, you have a fully active aircraft runway. On the other side, you have a bustling city street called Winston Churchill Avenue. At Gibraltar International Airport, these two don't just sit near each other, they literally intersect. Built way back in 1939 as an emergency base for the British Navy, there just wasn't enough flat land on the rock, so they built the runway straight across the city's main traffic artery. Today, it's still the only airport in the world where cars and planes share the same intersection. When a commercial jet takes off, traffic on both sides of the street is physically stopped by a regular old red traffic light. Just imagine the absolute disaster if a local driver accidentally spaced out and ran that red light.
Next is an airport I am almost positive you've seen on social media, Princess Juliana International Airport on the beautiful Caribbean island of St. Martin. The runway begins literally steps away from a jam-packed tourist beach. Because of the layout, incoming commercial jets fly incredibly, dangerously low right over the heads of the tourists. People flock there from all over the globe just to get those viral photos of the roaring planes. And sure, it looks like a fun spectacle, but think about the terrifying reality for a second. At such a shockingly low altitude, there is absolutely zero room for any kind of technical failure. God forbid if an engine stalls or a mechanical issue pops up right at that exact moment, that picture-perfect tourist spot instantly transforms into a devastating tragedy. Which brings us to our final section, Part 5, Dare to Fly Here? The Future of Extreme Aviation. We've explored the sheer adrenaline-pumping thrills of these wild locations, but now we really need to look ahead. What's absolutely fascinating here is the sheer scale of the compound threats facing Japan's Kansai International Airport. Kansai is an undeniable marvel of modern human engineering, constructed entirely on a massive 4-kilometer-long artificial island out in the ocean, but it is fighting a constant battle against multiple environmental threats. It sits right in a zone highly prone to severe earthquakes and incredibly destructive cyclones. However, the most insidious threat it faces isn't a sudden violent storm. It's the slow, unavoidable creep of rising sea levels threatening the very foundation of the island itself.
And that harsh environmental reality leads us directly to this incredibly striking quote from our source data. In the next 4 to 5 decades, due to global warming and rising sea levels, Kansai Airport is expected to completely sink. Just pause for a second and visualize that. A staggering engineering masterpiece, costing billions and billions of dollars, slowly being completely reclaimed by the ocean waters. It is a very powerful reminder that while human ingenuity can temporarily conquer mountains and oceans, nature almost always has the final word. So after exploring all of that, from the dizzying thin air heights of the Himalayas to the freezing, cracking ice of Antarctica to the bizarre intersections of city traffic and jet engines, which of these dangerous runways would you actually dare to visit? I really hope this explainer has given you a whole new appreciation for the incredible, high-stakes environments our pilots navigate every single day. The world of aviation is far wilder and far more dangerous than just a simple trip from point A to point B. Let us know your thoughts. Stay curious and keep exploring the incredible world around you.